Hey guys,
like Ronda Rousey.
welcome to. Oh my god,
That's rough.
yeah. Welcome
Took
to
more 40 seconds.
to the weekly episode 46, which is almost how many seconds did she last in that fight? 48 seconds.
40 seconds, yeah.
40
Wow,
seconds.
One half
I got-
kick
I
and
got
then
a-
10 blows to the head.
I
She was out.
I already got our uselessness of the week. I've got it. Useless
Ronda?
No. It's the UFC for not putting this fight on a week later so I could be in Vegas to bet on Nunes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
You know, but you know what? You know,
Money.
if that fight was in 2017, she might have won. 2016 just taking people out left and right.
No.
I know.
I'm
I'm
that's
sorry.
just-
She
Hey,
was
hey,
scared.
hey, guys,
She was
it
slow.
was supposed to be a joke, not real.
No, I can't even joke about this.
No.
This is so sad.
This is serious.
She's been done since before the Holly Holm fight. She's been done.
Well, and trying to parlay a move into like cinema, like I don't falter for that. I'd rather pretend get kicked in the head than really get kicked in the head.
Oh, she's going
But
to
Going to
WWE.
fight saying, I'm going to retire before you fight in this fight. That's why I really didn't care. She said, this will be my last fight. Well, then why are you trying for a belt?
Because
Well,
Dana
and-
White and them did that.
Well,
That's
Well,
on
yeah,
Dana White.
that's what was so sad is also seeing like she really wasn't in this fight. This was a payday
not
for
at all.
her,
Oh,
$3
and
million.
that she got paid an order of magnitude more than the actual belt holder.
Right. The draw, the name.
The entire thing like just felt so manufactured. And for anyone that was really thinking we were going to get a good fight, I mean, if you did the pay-per-view on this, you got robbed. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
UFC is
Oh, no,
kind
I
of
mean-
funny. It ain't like boxing though. They keep going, hey, you know what? You're the number one contender. You can fight again. You can't do that in boxing.
No.
Even
You can't just
wrestling
jump right
has
back to another
rules.
title fight.
Even wrestling has title rules.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, I just lost, but can I get?
I was
can
so
I
up
get
in
two
shit
belts?
about that. I was so up in shit about that because Dana White does his best to try to copy Vince McMahon, and it's not successfully doing it very well. And
Yeah, you can't do that. You're
Yeah.
jipping all the people that worked all the way up through the ranks, and
You're
then
trying to
say,
take
around
it-
to come back 13 months later. Go ahead and fight for the belt. You're not the number one contender. You
Yeah.
lost. You got to work your way up.
if she wanted a rematch, she should have got it instantly. If she had wanted it right away against
Right? Yeah, they could have
Once
did
that belt,
part two.
once that belt swapped hands, I felt like she needed a fight beforehand to then
Yeah.
get another rematch at that point. But she was looking for that payday to get out.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Definitely. All right, guys, let's switch gears back to the
Technology. Hey.
So we've got a couple of uselessnesses of the week. And Juan, could you kick them off? Because I know you sent them over and I haven't actually looked at them fully. So
Oh yeah. So these aren't. I don't know that I would really call them outright uselessnesses, but they're both funnily two stories involving Apple. The first one, I am gonna throw this as a useless just because it's so damn petty. But in the continuing saga of Apple and our legal system and various other technology companies suing each other, there is a lawsuit. Nokia has filed a lawsuit against Apple over, of course, some IP stuff. And in response, Apple has pulled all of the Withings products from their Apple Store shelves because Withings is owned by Apple. Took some
By
time to
Nokia.
dig out my little. Sorry, Withings is owned by Nokia. That's right. Took some time to dig out my little Withings security camera here, and we have the Withings Thermo that we did the review on a little while back, and we love that thing. It's silly how well a Wi-Fi connected thermometer fits into a little baby lifestyle.
We've got a weight scale from them that it's connected through your Wi-Fi.
I have the weight scale and a watch from them as well too. The activity still.
Good products.
Very good products.
Yep.
So again, just Apple's response: why not remove a really premium manufacturer of accessories that helps sort of flesh out the iOS ecosystem because the parent companies are in some sort of lawsuit or dispute? Again, just seems super petty when you break down like that as a response. So
no, I definitely
kind
agree.
of funny.
It's useless.
Sour face.
Closed.
And so the other one, the other one is I don't want to be, because uselessnesses are kind of glib. Like we like to make fun of things that don't work well. This is one that I don't want to call it useless just because I kind of want to get a serious take on what you guys think about this. But news broke, I think yesterday, about a Texas family that's going to sue Apple over the implementation of FaceTime, that they were in an accident where FaceTime was being used by one of the drivers. And it's their assertion that Apple should have some sort of lock on FaceTime being used in a moving vehicle.
Oh.
And so we've been going through these kinds of stories a lot in 2016, like how much control should the user have over the gadget and how much control should a company? You know, for example, the Note 7. You know, at what point do we draw the line and say, if you can't use this stuff responsibly, you can't have nice things? Or once you buy a product, how much control do you really get to keep over that product, like unlocking a bootloader or flashing a new ROM? And it's just this weird sort of nebulous area right now where we have a relationship with the manufacturer that we expect a certain amount of service and support. And then when bad things happen, how much should we rely on the user to be well informed and to execute, rational decision making?
Well, and the worst part of this too is that was a fatal accident.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to push the blame on something else because they don't want to be responsible for the damage, and that's a horrible thing. But you're right. The thing that, especially on this one, is, would it be Apple's fault? Let's say if there even was a fault, would it be Apple's, or would it be the carrier that's allowing the signal to work for FaceTime while you're driving?
Well, that's another sticky situation. Is should the
texting and driving? You know how AT&T and stuff, you can call and disable it. So could you call and have disabled FaceTime? But again, I mean, you can't push the blame on someone else. It does bring up some sticky issues about, it could be the same for anything. You're playing a video game. Well, Super Mario should have known that you can't, you should be able to turn this off if the car's going over 30 miles an hour.
I mean, it's a very simple thing.
People are stupid. Just say it. Just rant it. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry that what happened to them and what family, but this is stupid. What do you want them to do all of a sudden? You want Apple to be bigger brother or not? Because the second you add things like this turns into this bigger brother complex, and it's the same family that'll be bitching at why can't they let me do what I want to do with my phone and the purchase that I have. It's just,
well, it's the same people that will sue over hot coffee that gets spilled on you. So you got to put on the lid, this is hot. I mean,
well, there's a great documentary about the hot coffee thing, though, because that was actually no. I mean, what you will feel bad for that lady once you find out exactly what happened, because there was an actual consumer safety issue, and she never went out of her way to try and get some ridiculous payout. She just wanted her medical bills covered. It was the jury that awarded a ridiculous sum to send a message. So in this particular instance, a small child was killed in a fatal accident because of the other driver who was allegedly using FaceTime at the time. So this isn't on the family looking for some kind of, well,
so who's
isn't on the family for
Apple?
them being negligent. It was someone else doing something negligent and engaged in a behavior they feel could have been rectified by Apple putting some kind of block on using FaceTime.
Who is suing Apple? Is it the family or
the family is suing Apple?
I mean, I'm sorry, that's the wrong person to sue. I understand how lawsuits work, and you're looking at the plaintiff who can pay the most half of the time, but I can't blame Apple here. I can't even call Apple to do any of those things because, as we know, texting and driving or using another device while you're driving can be an issue, can cause distractions. We know that quite well. So it doesn't matter if it was FaceTime or a text message. Either one can cause, can lead to an accident, which is what we got here. So suing Apple in this case is really, to me, it's just not, there's just no foundation for it. There really isn't at all. And like to Warren's point, unless you want Apple to become big brother and truly say, once you enter into your car, and if your car has Bluetooth, whatever the case may be, it shuts off all functionality and all you can do is play music by voice control.
Well, no, I think there's a question we can ask of the relationship between consumer, manufacturer, and then accessory. So when we look at something like a smartphone and FaceTime and how long it's taken the auto industry just to do things like put Bluetooth in cars, I think we do in the technology space have a social obligation to look at some of these instances. Not that I think this family is in the right by suing Apple, but this is a major problem that we've got with interacting with technology. And I think the auto industry is sort of culpable in this, because look at how long it's taken just to get Bluetooth voice activation on our gadgets. And we are more apt to have entertainment features in our cars than actual assistive technologies in our cars. Like when I pair my phone with my Nissan, I can add Facebook and Twitter notifications, but I can't really do the same turn by turn or have better voice control or have prompts for what's happening. It's like I have a screen in my car that I have to look at to get that information. So in looking at something like this, we could say Apple should actually be doing more outreach to auto manufacturers to say, listen, when this phone is paired with a car and it's traveling at any rate of speed and a FaceTime call comes in, we're going to disable the video and just make it an audio call over the speaker system like you would with any other type of situation. I think that's a reasonable conversation to have, but I agree with you guys. I don't think, unfortunately, because of how terrible this tragedy is, I understand the grief and I understand the reaction, but I don't feel it's appropriate the family be suing Apple. I think you go after the person who was irresponsibly using the technology, and you use that lawsuit to encourage a more grown-up conversation about how we should be using this stuff.
That's a good idea about having, if it's synced to your Bluetooth, it would be nice to have a message that comes up and says, hey, you know what, you're driving now, put that phone away, no more text messaging, you know what I mean? But I think the problem is, I used to work in the automotive industry, is the second that the automotive industry has something that gets put up like that, they're now the ones that are going to be responsible for everything you're doing inside of the vehicle. And I think that's the delay that happens, because if it's in the vehicle, such as DVD players, they are disabled unless you're in park. So they have more control over it. But I think,
but they weren't when they initially launched. I remember that situation
well,
going down.
And it takes a couple of fatalities or bad accidents for that to happen. But what I'm saying is it's hard for them to control the third party, even if they put some kind of buffers, saying, hey, don't use that device, and then they could be liable. So I think that'll take a long time for that to happen.
I think what's disappointing though is that because it takes a long time, I don't see the auto industry actually trying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you. Whenever we have something that's like a mission critical service that will influence how you operate a motor vehicle, a speeding death trap.
Right.
It should be well vetted. But instead, what I see is this sort of limping into the space with frivolous technologies, because they can kind of throw in a little Bluetooth and some music playback. And now that we have an entertainment system with the screen, we can add some other things that we know consumers will like Facebook. And touch screen
navigation,
so that now you don't have buttons, you just have a totally smooth surface with no tactile information for you to use while you're using the car. And so basically they're giving up their role. The auto industry has walked away, and when we do get something like a really good heads-up display, it'll come from glasses manufacturers. It won't come from the auto industry. And then they'll struggle to catch up, and they wonder why younger people aren't as interested in buying newer cars.
Well, the funny thing is this is why I think the autonomous driving thing is happening so quickly, is because we all are using our cars as our offices, our workspace, our personal area. Excuse me. So I really think that is what's pushing this so fast. Think about it. 4 years ago, you didn't hear about autonomous driving. Guess what? They just passed the laws in, I think it's in Michigan now, where you can actually have those vehicles on the road. And it is, you're right. They're, instead of finding a way to fix the problem or, hey, here's a solution, they're just letting some other technology take over and do the job that they should have done.
Right. They're washing their hands of the liability, but now I feel it's put the entire consumer base into more dangerous positions or situations, because now we have to wait for the tech companies to struggle through all of the lawsuits, like a Google Glass. There are laws around Google Glass that are going to impact systems that work better than Google Glass.
Well, I'm gonna bring up something real quick, because it goes into this whole auto industry and technology. It's something that I invented. That was about 9 years ago, but it was basically, and I couldn't figure out how to get this to work, and I didn't want to invest, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But think about it, motorcycle accidents happen every day, and it's because automobile drivers don't know they're around. So you turn into a lane, right? You sideswipe a motorcycle guy. I'm like, well, what if you had a sensor on every motorcycle that was linked up to every vehicle, whether it's through the car lighter or a light that lights up and says, ding, there's a motorcycle within, 200 feet of your vehicle.
Right.
Pay attention. That would have been huge. And probably somebody's going to take this idea and run with it. But I invented that about 9 years ago, but I couldn't figure out the logistics and the FCC and the radio transmission and talking to the big three. But think about it. So it's the same thing. So I bet you somebody had already thought of it and said, you know what, that's a liability issue. We put the light on there. You run into somebody, they could say the light didn't work. And,
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, there are many things.
Well, I think, sorry, just to wrap up, because that last
No, I want to talk.
No. Point of order. No, but
wow.
to your point there about like having a sensor, I think the transition to self-driving cars would be made much easier if we could put up, say, an OBD2 plugin that acted as a beacon, so that your information, like rate of speed, engine issues, braking, all of that information is being sort of farted out to cars in your immediate vicinity, so that other cars have an easier time of anticipating when an accident might happen. Or
I agree, because all that data is being recorded anyways.
Exactly.
Constantly. I mean, that's how they check your accident records and stuff. But
yeah, that is very true.
Not to veer off on 100 different paths, but
good poignant discussions there.
Jokes, I just won't shut up.
All right, let's move on to some news, and then we'll talk about CES. Also, we're going to CES this year, as well as also Tech in 2017. And then some final thoughts of what we think about 2016 and what we've seen in tech this year. So a couple of news notes. The HTC Ocean Note this rumor is coming from Pocket Now. I wonder who in Pocket Now. It wasn't Juan, though, I know.
Oh, I didn't write that story. We talked about it on the podcast. I knew very little about what the situation was.
Big hot news.
It was actually John Carl.
So rumors
John
is
Carl.
that we might be getting the One Notes at that January 12th announcement. It's going to be a phablet. Let's see, what else do we have here? It's going to rival the Pixel, especially with the DxO Mark image. We all know how that went with that one.
Yeah.
Although
Flare.
it's rumored to have a MediaTek processor. So, HTC has, because we do know that Samsung is going to be releasing the S8 in April.
Yeah.
That's when the press event is going to be. So now they've opened the door for people like LG and HTC to come in early and show us something that we can go, oh, wow, maybe I should upgrade to that. Will they? I don't know. I'll leave that question to be answered to you guys. So how about you, Warren? What do you think about the Ocean Note? Ocean Note.
Ocean Note.
Be more excited if it was the Frank Ocean Note.
Oh,
don't give them ideas. Just start doing weird branding, cross branding like they did with Tony Stark. Don't give them ideas like that. But as far as an Ocean Note, I feel like HTC is sitting back here and sort of seeing this opening, and they're the first company to try and jump through that, because realistically there is no real alternative to the Note other than buying yourself maybe an iPhone
Note 5,
iPhone 7. I mean, we're just talking about in phablet in general. The only really other options out there were like something like an iPhone 7 Plus or something, or getting something like a what's the phone I'm thinking of, maybe like an LG V20 or something like that, in terms of just that phablet style of smartphone. So them jumping into this space and directly calling it a Note tells you what they're going after, what they're looking to do, and it will be interesting. HTC 10 was a really nicely designed phone and had said some pretty good things about it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this, and if they can really hit it in a way that may attract some Note customers that are not wanting to be on a Note 5 anymore or Note 4, have been waiting to upgrade, it might just give HTC that chance where Samsung kind of left the window open.
Hey Warren, can you call it a Note though without a pen?
I don't think the Note is going to be the consumer name. I think that's their code name.
That's the code name.
Yeah, so
they want
gonna be
that
the
code
11.
name is on purpose
because
for
it's
us.
so big, you know.
Just be the HTC 11.
Well, it's called that for us to be to talk about it that way, and I think it's going to be more of a big fat. They might surprise us with a stylus, but I don't think that's something they'll do. I think it's just going to be probably a big phone, probably a lot of detail on the screen size and screen quality.
See, I think that's the mistake manufacturers are making, is calling any phone that's a 5.5 or a 5.7 a Note style phone. That isn't what makes the Note the Note.
Right.
I've had every Note they had before it even hit the States. A Note is a Note, not only for the pen, but all the functionality that you can do with it. You can't just slap a big screen on it and go, this is the next great. I mean, I had the Xperia with a 6.4-inch display on it. That wasn't a Note. That was just a giant tablet.
No, it was a mini tablet.
Yeah, it really was. It was a beautiful looking phone, but it wasn't a phone. I wouldn't call it a Note. So I think they're making a huge mistake, though. Just, I don't know. I can't see a big screen just for sake of big screen on a phone. You got to do something with it.
So from what we've seen on the rumors on HTC, I'm a little nervous because I don't necessarily love the direction that HTC went with the Bolt. And talking about how they're piggybacking on their experiences making the Pixel. Also, not something that I'm super confident in when we look at HTC as the company that used to champion good audio.
Yeah, right. That was the draw, man. I love the HTC with the dual front facing speakers and the nice aluminum build. And then they just said, we'll just get rid of it. Like, that was your thing, man. Yeah. Each phone manufacturer has one cool thing.
The 10, I think, will stand as maybe, unfortunately, one of the last true boom sound style devices. But I think what they're trying with the Ocean, some of the rumors that we've been pointing to on Pocket Now have been things like trying to change up control of the phone using like touch sensor strips and no home buttons. And I think that's going to be a fad that we slog through in 2017. Like, how can we get rid of the traditional buttons that we use to control our phone with these new hot sci-fi interactive kinds of ways to control things? And it'll be interesting to see what plays out, which company sort of lands on the right way to do that consumers seem to think is cool. And I think Apple actually will probably take a lead if the iPhone 8 delivers some of this stuff, like getting rid of the home button. So I'm apprehensive about HTC trying to push up a launch this early in 2017, especially if they fall for the LG trap where they announce something and then it doesn't ship until March. Then it's an irrelevant product anyway.
No, I actually think they had this plan all along. Because what other phone did they really announce as a flagship this year? There was the 10 and a whole bunch of mid-range stuff. We didn't get a fall release.
I don't disagree with you, but if they announce in January and ship in February, then I think that this could be hot. If they announce in January and don't ship until we get a Galaxy S8 announcement, then they're
it's too late.
Oh no. They're the fact that the rumor they're going away, they're not using a Snapdragon, they're using something different for this, tells me that they want this drop before Samsung puts anything new out. They want to not only damage Samsung on the Note, but they also want to try and damage them on the other end against their big flagship of the Galaxy S7.
See, I'm thinking the announcement is the 12th, and I'm thinking by
MWC.
Yes, thank you, MWC. Around that time, they get a release, so you can still see it there again, but it would be also in people's hands. Around MWC. I was going to try to say Mobile World Congress. Jesus, that just took it out of me. Couldn't say that out loud. All right, but let's move on to our next story. Rumor, of course, is that the Surface Pro, I was going to say Samsung Pro 5. I don't know why. I'm having a
probably
because you
went through way too many of those.
Real quick on that HTC, do you think that's something they should be doing? Is taking out the headphone jack?
Oh, hell no.
If you're going to do that, right? Shouldn't you have something? Because think about it. It's usually, I don't know if they're just everyone's trying to save a buck by pulling this thing out of here so they can save components. But if you're going
there's
to take
nothing to save. How
out,
much do those things cost? I mean, it's
they're probably 50 cents, but times 3 million products.
no, it's probably 10 cents to
Yeah, it
make.
could
Maybe
be
50. I
But
mean,
what I'm
it's
saying
such
is-
an old component.
right. If they
and-
take it out, shouldn't they put something in, bigger battery, something in the way, haptic feedback display? It just
Right.
seems like if you say, hey, you're not getting it, you can get something else.
So here's my problem, and why I'm nervous about HTC making this move is let's look at how they did the Bolt. So the Bolt, they removed the headphone jack, and they included a really nice pair of earbuds that use a USB-C connector.
Yeah.
Those earbuds don't use a standard USB audio profile. They are proprietary, using the extra pins in the USB connector to only work with the Bolt. So if I take that and I plug it into my laptop with a Thunderbolt port, nothing happens. If I take that and I plug it into any other phone with a USB-C connector, nothing happens. And that is exactly the wrong way to go about creating a new standard based on USB. I think USB-C will eventually become the consumer standard for cabled headphones, and we're all just going to have to eat the fact that it adds cost for nicer headphones that want to have a better DAC. So like that cost is now getting thrown on us, as opposed to the LG V20, which can power amazing headphones and it's built right into the phone. But right now, everyone's got a solution that doesn't work with anything else, and everything's proprietary, and it's only going to serve to piss consumers off and actually make Apple look like they've got a standard because of how many things work with Lightning. And that's exactly the wrong way to go.
All that's going to happen out of this is Bluetooth headphones are going to get more popular.
That too. Yeah,
That's
it's going to be a
what's
huge
really
boon for wireless.
It's going to be a huge boom for wireless headphones. Yeah, the Bluetooth's going to get better. It's already good enough, really now to create some great audio quality out of it. Battery life has been at that point where it's finally there with things. I don't really think at all we're going to see
plug.
I think USB Type-C will be an extremely slow progression that they will be selling adapters for a long time until finally we start seeing companies maybe or may not take that leap to say we're only providing USB Type-C. So it's going to be a while for that, but I think we'll see a lot of companies push the boundaries of Bluetooth and wireless and increase the quality even better on those fronts than it already is now.
I totally agree, and it's super sad because if Android had ever just adopted the standard USB audio kernel in Linux, then Android would have ruled the roost. Like you'd be able to plug in a USB audio interface, USB portable recorders, anything would have worked. And that's what you can do on Apple. Like a lot of USB audio gear will be compatible if you get the Apple camera connector adapter, another dongle. Thanks, Apple. But using this USB-C port is going to be confusing because most Android phones are really only using the port and then connecting it to a micro USB 2 style interface, which doesn't have the same kind of compatibility with I/O. And Android is still woefully inconsistent in how it supports USB audio. I can plug a really nice DAC into my Mate 9 to make up for how poor the headphone quality is there. If I take that same DAC and I plug it into a Pixel, the supposed vanguard of Android products, nope, doesn't see it, can't use it, nothing works. So that kind of stuff is going to be death for those of us who really do like nicer, higher quality audio and better recording capabilities.
I just think it could be the beginning of the end for a company like HTC who's just scraping by. I think if a Samsung or an Apple pulls a stunt like that, they can get around it. But I think a company saying, like an HTC size who can't hardly sell their phones now, bust that out. I think it's death to them, honestly.
I don't know that it's death because Motorola did okay.
I just don't think they're big enough to be saying, hey, we can do what we want. Some of these guys, when you buy these devices, you're like, okay, well, that's the new standard. We have to do it. You pull out a HTC that does it. No. That's not the standard.
Motorola has the benefit of a company like Lenovo backing them, whatever risk.
That's true.
Yeah, and they have 1 million patents and everything to go with that. So,
and then I think at this point, HTC is preparing themselves to eventually be bought out by Google.
I could see that for sure.
This is what's eventually going to happen because all it really is convincing the founder on a board position, and she will probably do it. That's probably what
I'm hoping what we see. I'm hoping we see it early next year, that the Vive is split from HTC proper, becomes its own sort of separate entity, and that the phone manufacturing wing of HTC is sort of.
I definitely agree. I think Vive. I think Steam will probably fully pick up Vive.
That would be an interesting move.
Because remember, it is technically still a Steam product. Let's just HTC helps more in the design and manufacturing. Wow,
as long as they have like the design and manufacturing of it, but then you never know. That's something Google's been big into VR, and that's a piece they might want to have in their portfolio to be able to
Steam is not going to let that go. I know. I mean,
Google but Steam might not let that go. But then it may be good to be in bed with Steam. Might want to be in bed with a company like Google.
You know Gabe Newell pretty well. That guy just likes to do his own thing.
Yeah,
right. I mean, until you're talking billions. Hey, Minecraft got sold for billions. Not
but I mean,
somebody threw money. No. We don't deal with all Snapchat idiots, you know.
But Gabe is very different. I mean, again, Steam is fine on their own. And
they're all different. They're all different until they're not. I'm not saying Google will buy Steam.
That's the discussion we had on the last weekly.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, which I started, and then somehow Chad just sidelined us back to HTC.
Sorry, man, derailed us.
Yeah. The Surface Pro 5 rumors out, and again from some website called Pocket Now. I mean, they're
weird.
Man, they're blasting information out there.
Yes, so it looks like, according to rumors, it looks like it's a Q1 release, and you're going with a Kaby Lake chipset, 4K display, which of course we would all think would be standard, at least for the next iteration of the Pro 5. But I want to ask you guys a question. What would you like to see in the Pro 5? Besides, because to me, what the rumors right now are just the basics, in the sense of, you're going to get the latest Intel processor and a 4K display. But what would you like to see? I'll start off by saying...
Can I answer that one first? Because I've sold 600 of those devices this year.
Okay. No, you're going to be last.
Sorry.
I was going to say,
I'm on a timeout. I feel like I'm in hockey.
I want to see a GTX 1060 in a Surface Book. So I want to see that in the Surface Book. I want to see a Surface Book that literally is, Microsoft can call it a gaming piece or whatever they want, but it has some serious power to it. That's what I want to see in the book side of things. In terms of the Surface Pro 4, I want to see many Thunderbolt 3 ports, at least like 2 or 3 of those bad boys. And then, it'll be good. Juan, how about you?
Actually, that's the biggie for me, is I want to see the flip on what most laptops are doing now, adding one Thunderbolt port and then a bunch of standard USB ports. I'd like to see 2 Thunderbolt ports and then 1 legacy USB port. That's really the biggie. There's so little that I think really needs to be addressed in the Surface line. I would be fine with what you were saying, sort of an iterative update to just kind of catch the Surface up to a few of these technologies. This is why I went with the Razer Blade over the Surface Book, is I really wanted Thunderbolt and I couldn't get it on the Surface Book. So other than that, that would become a much ballsier competitor in the space if we could land some of those updates.
Warren?
I mean, it's sounding like spec upgrade the device is going to be. I mean, I don't really know much more what they can do with the Surface. I don't, you can add some ports here and there, a few things that you need, but I'm looking at it now. If they're talking about Ultra HD, 4K displays and things that they're talking about, they're definitely looking more on the high end for whatever this is going to be. It'd be interesting to see what the lower end devices will get for those that might not want to pay the premium that this is probably going to cost them to do so. It'd be interesting. Microsoft seems to somewhat care about hardware. Must mean Nadella hasn't touched this part of the company yet. Clearly he hasn't. It's the only hardware that they sell. They don't really sell anything else. So it's interesting. I think, it'd be cool to see another new Surface, but it's not anything that's going to be like oh my God, I got to have a device. It's not going to hit in the way that the Surface Studio PC did, where everybody was really excited to see something so different happening from Microsoft. This, I think, is going to be like, oh, there's a modest spec upgrade.
True. And of course, now we can now move to chat.
Well, I sell hundreds of these a year, and there's a couple things that I know they could do. I'm going to go outside of what you guys said, and I think there's two main things that can happen with this that would take this next level, blow the doors off of every laptop that exists. One, you have to have a bigger screen. A 12.3-inch screen is not going to work with this anymore. People love, here's the way technology works. We get it as small as we can, and as you see with the phones, then we got to blow it all back up, right?
So what size screen would you
it's
like?
got, I think 14 is the sweet spot. 13.3 or a 14 if they want to, you know. The problem is they use a different aspect ratio, so they'll have to look at a different screen size. But 12.3 is not big enough. Everybody that I sell this product to loves it, but the problem is there's not enough real estate on it. They end up plugging it in. That's why the Surface Dock connectors became such a big seller. You have to basically use it with another system. So either, and the funny thing is, before the Surface Book was released and the rumor mills were spreading, I was like, oh my gosh, could you imagine a 14-inch Surface Pro 4? I was like, that's the one, that's the seller. No, we got it in the Surface Book, but you can't really use it that way because it's 2 hours limited, all that stuff that you get when you pull the display off. Sold hundreds of those too. So bigger screen. Second thing, you want to take this to the next level, and they've been talking about it for years, the keyboard. To be able to allow different magnetic devices to plug into this unit, piano styles, drafting boards, they've already tried. I've seen it in Microsoft's back end. Release those. I don't know why they're still sitting on them. They have them right now. They have DJ
Nadella just keeping that side of things behind.
Yeah, but you have DJ equipment. You literally plug in the new board. I can't remember what they called it, but you plug that in. Instead of it's a keyboard, now it's a different device.
They announced those. They actually showed those with the Surface 3 launch.
Yeah. Where are those?
Yeah, they had the
people will go
sketchboard.
nuts over that.
They had a bunch of boards that never came.
Yeah. Think about that. Bigger screen, right? So now you got DJs and guys that are out actually using this for productivity. Wacom boards.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
There's so many things you could do with it, and they don't talk about it. I don't know what they're waiting for.
I think one has the only one in existence.
This is
right.
my mixing blade for the Surface.
Yeah, blade. That's what they call them. Yep.
Yeah.
We need more blades, and they could sell a ton of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely
That
agree.
will take the next Surface Pro to the next level.
Oh yeah. So here's a question I want to ask about the Surface Book and the Pro. Wouldn't it just be sensible? I think that both should be interchangeable in the sense that if I bought a Surface Pro 4 or Pro 5 and I wanted to get a Surface Book, I could just be able to buy the dock.
Maybe. I mean, that's kind of what you're getting up to. But the problem is, people like the portability of it. They like the small little case. They
I get that. I get that aspect.
Yeah.
Say I use the Pro. You know, I've been using the Pro 5 for a while. I love it, but I'm doing more editing and also doing more gaming on the go. And there's a 1060 base, right?
Right.
Why can't I just buy the base?
Yeah, you're right. You should be able to click in a real keyboard, right, and do productivity. Just like, why on the Surface Book did they not put the flip kickstand on it? It's the number one reason why you used your Surface Pro 4 is the fact you could take the display off, take it anywhere, fold out the kickstand, and set it on something. You know what happens when you pull off the screen on your Surface Book and you go to use it? You have to physically hold this device, which takes away the use of the device.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it from hundreds of people. They're like, why? Why can't we stand this up? And you're right. You don't want to hold this unit forever. You want to be able to have a
we're just so lazy. That's what it is. We are absolutely lazy.
Pen,
Well, it's nice throwing it in your kitchen. Pop the screen off, throw it in your kitchen. You're watching Netflix while you're cooking. I mean, that's the greatest thing that I use the Surface Pro 4 for. I mean,
it's like while I'm cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I'm watching,
think about it. Anywhere you go, you just set it down, prop it up with a kickstand. The Surface Book would have been great for that. Even with you get about 2.5 to 3 hours of battery life watching movies, but still, a kickstand on it would be phenomenal. Instead of having your big old clunky keyboard all over your wet area that you're using stuff on.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so let's move to actually, let's do this first. I was going to talk about 2016 tech, things we liked, things we didn't like this year. And Juan, I'll kick it off with you. Just kind of sum up like some of your thoughts in tech this year, whether it be news, because we've covered the whole gamut. We went from like FCC rulings, rumors of mergers, IPOs, down to new stuff, exploding phones, and what have you. So, what are the kind of things that stand out for you this year, both positive and negative?
Well, in terms of negative, I think we saw a number of situations of just like missed potential. Some really cool stuff going out there, and then there would always be something that would kind of hold the excitement back a little bit, or a lot of it if you were, like, say, a Note fan. When we see some of the companies that sort of fell apart this year, like my beloved Pebble sort of dying in the most tragic way a small little indie company could die. Those kind of things will be remembered, I think, far more than some of the positives that we saw. And for me, the biggest takeaway for 2016, this was a great year to demonstrate that competition is awesome. That whenever you have a space that's healthy, that's vibrant, that has new players walking into the space and established brands trying to compete in it, that we get kick-ass products. And so especially for phones around the $400 price point at Pocket now, that's really what was the exciting tier to talk about this year, where a mid-ranger no longer felt like a compromise. And that the high-end premium smartphone makers had to give us reasons why their phones were more expensive now. And so that's a trend that I definitely hope to see continue. As the smartphone is becoming more of a commodity, now I think consumers are starting to benefit from that tech sliding into lower price points. And some really, really visceral and brutal competition is delivering some really exciting stuff to talk
about. Chad?
I'd say overall, my favorite device, not just, I guess my favorite technology that came out of this year would be the Pascal graphics processors. I think the fact that now we're able to get, because think about it, the 900 series were around for 5 years. So we had a jump from 5-year-old technology to boom, right now today. I mean, we're able to run now, think about it, 1080 graphics processors and laptops with only about 10% diminished return in power.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. And now we've got all these external GPUs, which I think is huge. Thanks, Dave Lee, for taking my video, by the way, with the external GPU on the MacBook, you sucker. That was going to be one of my videos. Yeah. Anyways, love you, Dave 2D. But anyways, I think I think with the graphics performance, it's changing literally the scenery of the, just like you said, instead of having a 965 in that Surface Book, which will end up being like probably the 1050 series, but still a 1050 today would blow the doors off a 980 Ti 4 months ago. So I think it's incredible. So now think about what we're going to get in the next 5 years, pushing that technology now, because now our laptops we can carry around are literally, at least today, and that might diminish over those 5 years, but today are as powerful as a desktop. So that's why we can have these actual desktop replacements. I think that's a huge thing for me right now. Could be because I'm all in the computer and laptop space, but to me that was huge this year.
All right, Warren.
So are we doing biggest wins or biggest?
I mean,
fails?
you can state whatever you want to state, bro. I mean,
it was a big year. Had a lot of stuff.
I mean, Chad and Juan stated what they felt like. It was their inner core came out.
Yeah, it's my draw.
So you could state whatever you want, bro.
Yeah,
Go
we're
ahead.
very philosophical tech fans, Chad and I.
Oh, you guys are useless.
Okay, go ahead.
This so much happened this year. It's just kind of so much. It's hard to summarize a few things. I think both in tech and gaming, some big things happened. I'll start off a little bit in gaming. I'm kind of glad that we're finally seeing consumer responses to companies putting out unfinished, shitty $60 games and people just not buying it, or companies that are like making all these big promises, failing, and instead of people just giving the money to them, calling them out harshly on it to the point where to the point where they're nearly destroying whatever game or whatever thing that's coming out. I like the fact that now we're starting to see things like Call of Duty just sort of get challenged to be better than what it is. Then it's not be this yearly $60 game that's overpriced. It doesn't give you a lot of content for it. I love the way that people responded to Capcom about Street Fighter. Street Fighter 5 was probably one of the biggest fails this year in terms of any game ever.
Epic fail.
You know, it was biggest epic fail. They put out a $60 game and decided, hey, you pay full price for this. We'll finish the game later. Yeah, game still ain't finished.
Alpha.
You know, it literally is Street Fighter 5 Alpha. They set out people at Alpha build, which is just ridiculous.
Infinite Warfare got destroyed too on that.
Yep,
Microsoft was refunding all their money because it was such a horrible release and no one was on it.
Well, because everybody would just wanted to play Modern Warfare Remastered. If you go to the
that's why you buy the packages to get the 10-year-old game.
But I like this response of folks just continually not wanting to take the same games anymore and kind of saying we want something new and different, and also calling game companies out when they put out crap. You know, No Man's Sky is another one.
Oh yes. Thank you. Right. Don't hate the geek. No Man's Sky
is another one that just I didn't believe the hype in the game to start off, but I watched some of the game and I was like, what the hell is this? This is just like watching SimCity, but in a very boring way.
It's like watching someone else play SimCity.
Who the hell wants to play a first-person SimCity? I mean, that's what the hell it is. And I was just like watching, like, what is this? I mean, it's funny. It's just ridiculous. From useless things like Nintendo never putting out specs, quitting on the Wii U and trying not to say that they are, and putting out a overpriced ROM emulator and then actually not having it available to anyone to actually use.
Yeah, that's
you know, they don't realize the thin line that they run on, that their nostalgia really runs to early stage millennials, and it doesn't really go beyond that, and they need to understand that that's the reason they survive, and that's something that they can't keep continuing to survive on. They really need to change their attitude, or they're going to get their butt kicked next year. Just you know, there's too much to really to talk about, even from to sit there. I can't really say that
you're hitting them all pretty good, man. Keep firing.
I can't really say I had a favorite this year. I mean, I think Samsung really did good and had a good half a year, and then had a really bad second half of the year. Although I really say that the overstatement of them saying that they had a bad second half year, I think it's being said that their whole year was horrible or something like that. I said no, they had about a good damn 8 months. And then you had a couple of months where it wasn't bad, where it's bad with the whole no release. But I'm pretty sure they sold a bunch of damn S7s and S7 Edges after the fact, and probably will end up looking out in the pretty decent positive light, considering that anybody that had a phone like that failing them would probably be done as a company. Let alone they were able to.
I mean, you're definitely right.
And still sold more than LG.
There are still more Note 7s in activation than there are V20s sold.
Or Windows 10 phones in the last 10 years.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get my Lumia 950 and just give it a nice little hug and then put it back on its shelf.
Orange, you glad I didn't say that one?
and then speaking of
I like that you're a prop comic. That really makes me happy.
and speaking of Microsoft, and just utterly so, how they've gone into an era where they're really not consumer friendly, but they're faking the funk right now until probably next year when it gets really seen by consumers, that forcing Windows 10 updates, forcing a lot of the things that they've done with OneDrive, a lot of their Office stuff. It's like they came out with how you would say, the best way to say is how you say someone would think their shit doesn't stink, and that's exactly what they did all of 2016. And I think they're going to pay for it next year. I think they're going to realize that people aren't necessarily fond of a lot of the changes that they have made. LG, for God's sakes, make a good phone. For God's sakes, next year, make a good phone.
Well, I love the head of LG.
I thought the V20 was amazing. That was my favorite Android.
No, it was the great phone because they had because they got forced into just basically putting on a phone, basic phone. They were forced to put out and they could not do anything innovative. They couldn't do
I don't know
anything
about basic,
different.
man, dude. That thing had everything we all wanted in it.
It's a repackaged V10.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
every-
No,
repack.
it's not. It's a lot different than just a repackaged.
It's not a
Yeah.
repack. I think the problem that Warren wants to state is that the V20 does not feel polished. It feels
Yeah, well,
So-
it isn't new technology. I think would be the better
No,
word.
what
But it had
I-
everything
what
we
I
wanted
mean
on
is-
the phone.
what do we talk about with new technology though?
no,
I mean,
I'm not talking about new
LG
technology.
was the first company to give us differing focal lengths. So the only other phone that has this type of dual camera system is the G5. LG is the far and away winner for headphone audio output.
They have the
They
DAC,
redesigned the
quad
entire
DAC.
back casing so we could still have a removable battery, which would have really helped the Note 7.
Yeah.
I think LG did pretty well. I think LG's biggest
everybody
problem,
bought it. Everybody bought
No. This is exactly it. LG's biggest problem wasn't the product. It's that they've done an absolutely terrible job of reaching out to consumers for about 3 years now.
I agree.
So everything that I just said,
huge.
we never got told that as consumers. We got a video of Joseph Gordon-Levitt dancing. You know,
right.
that doesn't help sell any products to consumers right now, especially those who
I
are
agree.
looking at the Note as a powerhouse productivity device.
Yeah.
And some people might have actually been satisfied with the V20, but LG never got the message out on what made their phone special. And you can't
That's right.
rely on YouTubers to do your messaging for you.
Yeah, they were pushing the DAC only, and that phone had so much more to give you than the DAC.
Totally.
The Air Blaster, yeah, the large, beautiful screen, the dual display that didn't bother you when you're watching videos because it has a separate display on it. Yeah, we've seen some of these things, but not all in one package.
No,
It only lacked a couple
but this is
things.
what I mean, and to Juan's point on messaging, that is very true. That's the number one thing. But what I mean by polish is when I held the Note 7 in my hand and I hold the V20, the Note 7, just holding it feels like a polished device. The V20
Well, yeah,
feels
because
like
it's made out of glass. Waka waka.
but the
iPhone 4.
but the
It's an iPhone
V20
4.
feels like it's like my first PC I built with everything inside it. But when I look at it, I'm like, all right, yeah, it's powerful, but it's not something I want to hold.
I mean, I can appreciate that, but again, we're talking about what makes a Note, and what makes Samsung, and then also why other companies are focused on different demographics. LG, I don't think ever had any illusions or any idea that they were trying to compete directly against the Note. They just had another phone that was going to be released as a big screen device, looking at their sales numbers, and especially where they failed in places like the original Flex. You know, like they've been sort of toying with bigger screen phones for a while.
Flex, I forgot
Again,
about
a lot of
that.
potential, not really fully realized. And so if the biggest problem you can levy at the V20 is that it's not as sexy, then you still have a huge user base out there who want a diesel truck over a sexy roadster.
Well, and
Right?
that V20 was the closest thing you were going to get to a Note because you could handwrite. You could do, individual.
Oh, that handwriting was
screenshots.
terrible. Let's never call it
terrible.
that.
That was terrible.
But there's little else on the market that really does address the big screen productivity content.
That's right.
Market.
Multi-display, all of the things that you have to have if you're going to have a larger phone.
So again, I don't disagree because, I think LG's biggest issues this year for the actual products were fit and finish. The G5, I don't think was very well put together, and we never got to play with the friends here in North America. So that was a huge misstep. But if you're telling me that the seams on the back casing are a little rough on the V20, but I get enhanced drop protection and crumple zones in the
military
forehead and
grade,
chin, I'm okay making that compromise. Every device is going to be a compromise. The Note 7's compromise was that you couldn't replace the battery that could potentially explode. That's a worse compromise to make than, the V20 seams don't feel as nice as a completely glass back surface. I'm fine. I'm fine making that
Yeah.
That you're going to have to skin or it's going to look like crap, by the way. That's an iPhone 4.
All right.
But,
I guess I would state my own. Are you done, Warren? Is anything?
Oh no, I wasn't done just yet. I was gonna move on to talking about the Google Pixel and basically Google putting all Android manufacturers on notice. They put that phone out and it's far more popular than I think any of us expected it to actually be.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
to the people, they actually marketed something because they refused to market the Nexus phones at all ever, even though they clearly had a winner in the 6P that they could market to a ton of people and just didn't really want to jump behind it. But it putting people on notice that they might take a good lion's share of Android. Maybe not necessarily from Samsung, but they could take a chunk away
from everybody else.
And everybody else that could take a chunk away, and then you also have the Huawei's that are making their way into this space. They're eventually going to get in the U.S. and they're going to have some type of hit phone that's going to get people buying.
Yeah, Huawei's
buying with them too. They're bound to hit.
Juan,
that point.
just quickly, what's the new Honor phone that they announced? Do you know?
I don't know that there have been any announcements.
No, they
that
just
are not under embargo.
No, they showcased it in China. Somebody even mentioned it in the chat here. I don't even know why I asked you.
Well, I mean, there are the rumors about the Honor Magic.
Yeah, the Magic.
That should be at CES.
At CES. So, and the Honor 8 also did well from them, which is also why.
Honor 8 was my favorite mid-ranger. It had so many issues, but it had such a quirky personality that it was an interesting phone to use. And it's the only phone. The Pixel and the Honor 8 were the only phones this year that when I used them out in public, people would ask me about those phones. Usually it was, hey, what case do you have on your iPhone?
That's true. They had their own personality.
I got a lot more questions this year about, hey, what do you think of that Pixel phone? And I was like, it's trouble now for all the rest of these Android manufacturers. The only thing that I think that's keeping that thing from honestly not selling probably more is because for whatever reason they decided to do a Verizon exclusive on carriers, which I just don't understand considering their past relationship with Verizon on exclusivity that they would do that again. But beyond that fact, they're going to take some space. Huawei's coming in, going to take some space. LeEco, whatever the name is.
If LeEco can keep their financials in check, because right now they're burning way more money than they're making on some of these experiments. But man, you handle a Le Pro 3, and that seems like it's the right answer to competing against a OnePlus.
Yeah. And even OnePlus stepping their game up. They stepped their game up this year too. The LGs and the HTCs and the Motorola's really need to have some concern about where they're still going to be in this space, because Samsung has this big huge chunk, and it's not like they can lose 5% of that chunk, which is still pretty big, but that's not going to take that behemoth down. There's so many others in Google, and you got a company like Google can just burn cash and not really care. I mean, they can burn cash
with the Verizon deal.
They can burn cash and not really care. You have these Chinese manufacturers, the Asian manufacturers, and Huawei and LeEco coming in trying to push into this space and aggressively doing it as well too.
ZTE made some good inroads also. Chinese companies are figuring out how to handle North America, and that is going to be tough competition for LGs, HTCs, and Motos.
What's that one that Xiaomi, is that how you pronounce that?
Xiaomi?
Xiaomi.
Crap, with the bezel-less displays. That is a beautiful phone.
And Samsung is going to make that official with the S8.
Yeah. They're one. Huawei's just. I'm telling you, they're gonna have their one big hit phone away from in the U.S. from really making some strides, and I think LeEco will hit in some mid-range levels that people didn't expect next year, coming up as well too. It's gonna be a tough space for the current runners that have kind of been coasting and just not really being aggressive at nipping at the competition, and we'll see what happens next year. It's going to be an interesting 2017.
I think a lot of doors were opened with that, the Note issue. I think a lot of manufacturers, you guys will probably see a ton of new people sitting on CES floor, bunch of unknowns, that are like, hey, there's space, there's room, we can get in this.
I mean, there definitely is. For me this year,
headphones.
Headphones.
As I look on your wall of 80 pair.
What? Speaking of headphones didn't the high-end headphones impressed me this year. The mid, or you could say the regular purchase range, which is around that 150 to 300, didn't really move me that much. There were a few headphones that I really liked there this year, but it was more on the high end, which I can't recommend to everyone because it's just expensive, like, $700 headphones and things like that. People look at me and go, you're an idiot, but they're great. I think the things that I noticed this year was, some of those discussions we had on FCC rulings and, going back and forth on that, and to see how the landscape. It's more or less looking at what happened this year and what's going to happen next year. I'm kind of tying both of them together because I'm not even sure what's going to happen. You know, we have the fact that AT&T is buying Warner Brothers, or they're looking to pick up Warner Brothers, which is huge. You know, to me, it's going to change that landscape come next year in terms of entertainment and in terms of also what traditional tech companies are now becoming. You know, they're like, I think Juan's point is they're service providers now. They just provide you services and not, you know, a cell phone company anymore, you know, and how T-Mobile has destroyed itself in a way as a carrier. You know, they had great things this year, but also coming towards the end of the year, the T-Mobile One plan is now a two plan.
Too many damn carrier updates. They needed to stick with something and just sit on it for a few years.
Yeah,
they kept trying to change the game, stop changing the game. Once you got people coming in on something, you keep.
Well, that's the
giving
problem,
them
though, is because he kept wanting to announce changes until you're right. You come up to you shouldn't change a whole lot.
Too much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that. I think, you know, a lot of that stuff. Just, you know, as a T-Mobile customer, I've been a customer since 2003. And you know, I'm not happy. There's a point where I was like, yeah, this is great. And I'm like, I'm looking at the company now, I'm going, you know, I don't know, you know, but they're not my biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment is Microsoft. I've been a Microsoft fan since I knew what a computer was. And, you know, for me, they really disappointed me in the fact that they have moved away from the consumer space. As much as I talked to reps in Microsoft and they said, no, we are still there. We have the Xbox, we have Surface. I'm like, you have products that are selling well, but you're not making that initiative. And I'm watching Google, Apple really double down and say, you know, we're moving into this space. And I posed this question to my Microsoft reps. I said, you guys look at as the business customer as being the largest customer, but let's be frank. The biggest company in the world, so the company with the biggest amount of cash in the world is Apple. They don't have a business presence. They honestly don't have that big business. They make all their monies from consumers.
That is true.
So why are you leaving that market open? Like, let's just think of it from a market perspective. If you have a huge business chunk, why aren't you just tapping into that? And there's so many things Microsoft could do, you know, that you know, especially with connected home now. And granted, they're going to announce a speaker with Harman Kardon at CES. There's already like a short clip from that, but it's just this very late approach, you know. So for me, those are one of the downers of 2016. In terms of moving up, I would say TVs. You know, the TV market has really improved in terms of quality from many manufacturers, whether it's LeEco, even with their TV, which I just reviewed, to Samsungs and LGs, and even Sony's kind of come back with a Z9D.
The pricing's getting really good too.
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, this holiday period we had, you know, 4K TVs going for like, you know, 600, 300 some deals, and they were actually some good spec TVs. It's not like years have passed where you're like, if I buy a $300 TV,
it sucks, right?
This is crap, you know. So it's definitely good to see that, you know, that will expand in the space. Ronald is saying Microsoft just pulled in nearly $1 billion DoD contract. Yes.
Yeah, well, they need that to make up for the fact they're probably going to lose this NFL contract.
Yeah, you know.
They're probably going to lose
Listen, they make most of their money off of Android phones and licenses for software. Everything else is just icing to them. Well, you know how many Exchange and sequels and networking licenses and mainframe systems? That's where they're making all their money from.
Yeah, but they need to expand.
Well, their whole thing, Windows servers, all those expensive ass cow licenses. Chad knows what I'm talking about.
26 years of this, trust me, I know. I worked for him for 6 years directly.
So it's one of those things that I would like to. I mean, just going back to TVs. TVs have been really good this year, and I'm liking where that's going. Even though, you know, people are watching content on different avenues now. You know, you can watch content everywhere. One of the great things that happened this year is Netflix download. Even though I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to be using it on my trip to CES. So
yeah, I wish it wasn't select shows only. You're right. I saw that, and that is phenomenal. I wish it was all shows. I'm sure that they got.
I think they have licensing issues. I think right now
Yeah.
it's just Netflix own content, which is easy
Yep.
for them to do. But I definitely like that whole aspect of things. But I guess from this point I can just move on to say what we think about tech in 2017. What are we looking at, and also what to expect.
CES coming up too.
And starting off with CES. So since I know you were going to CES, Mr. Juan Bagnell, can you kick things off? What are you excited at seeing at CES that you, of course, you can talk about? That's not under embargo or anything like that. We have a few of those, and
we have a few embargoes, and so I'm going to be very careful about what I say here. But ultimately, 2016 was a step towards sort of sealing the fate of the smartphone as we know it. Back to my previous point, when it's exciting that you can see flagship specs in cheaper and cheaper devices, that also means that we're running into a barrier. We're running into a wall of what our smartphones are responsible for in the current interaction between user data and services. And so I'm hoping that 2017 starts to become the year where, now that more and more of these powerful devices are arriving at cheaper price points, that we can really start addressing in earnest some more of the usability issues that our smartphones bring. I mean, back to the original story that the first story that we started with, and talking uselessnesses and, the social etiquette of using smartphones, distracted driving, being aware of what's happening in your digital space and having that be less of a distraction to your, physical corporeal form. That to me is going to be the exciting stuff to watch in 2017.
Okay. Chad, how about you? I know you're not going to CES, but what?
No, but I think some of the things that you guys are going to see there is, you brought up a great point, is the fact, I think the pricing and everything is coming down, because think about it, 4K TVs have actually been around for about 6 years, but now, because it's kind of one of those things, when bleeding edge technology first comes out, it's outrageous, right? But by the time it's able to hit the mass market and everybody can get it and it's affordable to manufacture, then it becomes great and it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I think what you guys are going to see a lot of at CES is tons of televisions, tons of strange, I don't want to say foreign, unique manufacturers that I think you wouldn't have seen before, because technology, the price is so cheap right now to get things, that I'm hoping you guys are going to find some, really unique items that we didn't think of in the space before. I hope it isn't all just, I know there's going to be a lot of VR. You guys are going to see a ton of VR stations, I think, this year set up. Not just an HTC Vive, but I think they're going to be, actual playscape areas, different, giant Gatling guns, or you get into this, it looks like a helicopter. And, I think that's going to be a big thing, arcade style stuff. But I want to see something unique. I want a HoloLens that automates something.
So why are you trying to bring Microsoft back into this stuff, man? Come on, like
something. Sorry.
Well, no. See, basically, what he's doing is he's agreeing with my point that interacting with services, interacting with data, needs to evolve.
Because hardware, gets to a point where the hardware doesn't do anything. The reason why we love some of these devices isn't the hardware; it's the software they put on it and what they can do. It has nothing more to do with hardware. We can't make a 4K TV any better than a 12-bit, but what can you do with it? Can you make it 4-dimensional? Can you spin it? Does it flip? Is it foldable? You guys see a lot of foldable stuff this year. That's what I mean. I want to see things not just better, faster, stronger, greater. I want unique. I want to see you guys having cool videos on a watch that pops up, flips over, and it, I don't know, turns into a transformer, and there goes a, now it's a hover. Right now it's a drone. Just something, right? Something to get our creative juices going again. The reason why we all got in this, probably we were kids, the little Merlin games, the things like, oh my gosh, this stuff is ridiculous. That's the stuff I'd be interested in seeing at a CES.
Okay.
Not, this is a cool looking TV. Oh, this phone is, it's beautiful. It's borderless. Something unique. I think that's what I'd be looking at from CES.
All right. Warren, how about you?
Okay, I think most of the stuff's been said. And to Victor Costa's point, the reason why people buy 4K TVs is because there is a difference between You can see the difference, even though the human eye is only supposedly supports full max full HD.
Not true. Not true.
Not true.
Not true.
Whoever keeps saying that is justifying why they can't afford.
The human eye can't perceive past 54 frames per second. I can see 240. I'm counting the frames right now. 1, 2.
If you guys want, I can break down the math, but it's the best possible eyesight, not 2020. 2020 is not best eyesight. That is another. 2020 is basically you've got good enough eyesight to interact with people in your vicinity.
That's great. Yeah, that's 90% of people. But yeah.
So if you really break down at the closest minimum focusing distance with the best possible quality eyesight, you're looking at something close to 500 megapixels. Now, obviously, most people don't get to that point, and we don't normally hold things 3 inches away from our face. So really, at a minimum average focusing distance, 4K is and around an 8 megapixel image is around what the human eye can perceive at its best, at its sharpest.
Yeah. And that's the point. You're right. It's how far away you are from it that then it becomes, can you perceive it or not?
Exactly.
So Warren,
as far as CES, I'll start with CES. Then I have another rant coming. I have another rant coming just after that.
Warren's rants.
But at CES, I think I look forward to everything that shows up there. I'm always excited to go on the show floor, see some new things. We got some things we know that are coming up that we can't talk about yet under embargo. But what I'm really interested to see is how we're going to see a whole lot of VR. VR is now the new 3D. If you've been to CES before a few times, they threw 3D in our face for about 4 years to a maddening point, to the point where you didn't like it just rolled off your shoulder. Somebody said 3D, you were like you didn't hear it. You were just numb to it. VR has now turned into that. VR is going to be the big thing. I think anybody that's signed up for CES, you see your emails. Every other email is about some form of VR experience, VR like. We have this VR add-on. We're this VR company. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out, especially with who's going to be the company that's going to sort of lead the content, the software, or the world in VR in general going forward, and how are all these companies going to sort of connect to it? That's going to be really, I think, one of the more interesting things that happened at CES and in 2017 in general. Because, how many people here have read Ready Player One? Besides the three, it's a science fiction book that's based on
the 80s.
It kind of is, but it's hard to explain what the book is in one.
But in essence, I love the new cover that they've got for it, where it's Willy Wonka meets the Matrix.
Oh God!
That's not a bad way to describe it.
It isn't a bad way to describe it, but it's not the best way to describe it. But basically, what I'm referring to is, and you guys will understand this, Facebook is trying to be the Oasis. And they're going in that direction harder than anyone else is. And I want to see how everyone's going to react, or how all these different devices are going to sort of connect to that sort of system, because I don't see any other company jumping in the dive as hard as they are to make that happen. I mean, I just saw, when I looked at Facebook Game Room and I saw the ads that they were doing for the Game Room and how it was looking, I was like, this is very, very Oasis-like that they're going towards. Even the recent, I think one of their recent conferences didn't have like a VR setup, sort of like augmented sort of reality avatars and stuff like that. Yeah. In the middle of them doing that, you need to read Ready Player One to understand where Facebook is going, because I think they're the company that's going to do it first, and I don't think there's going to be. I think that's where Facebook's there. I think Google will just have the sheer amount of money and knowledge to be able to force themselves into that point. Amazon will be there in some way, and I think Microsoft will probably be looking on the way out of that whole scenario, because I don't think they understand where that's going. I don't think they're going to be there just yet. But the rant, speaking of segue into Microsoft, 2017 we're supposed to be seeing the next Project Scorpio, correct?
Yeah.
We're officially launching new consoles next year. I don't care what they have to say about this. I don't care how they want to brand this. Sony was smart in the way they branded the PS4 Pro, because they can get away with saying that they didn't, but they did essentially kind of launch a new console, but they can get away with saying that they didn't, and kind of 2.5 themselves. Microsoft's not 2.5 in anything. They're launching a new console, so we can officially say they lost the last console war. They got bodied. What happened in 2013? Because of their marketing, because of their PR, because they can't handle a damn thing right, they blew the equivalent of a 3-1 lead because they walked out of the Xbox 360 console generation well into the lead. Very good lead. A better lead that you could possibly imagine. They were beating 2 Japanese gaming companies. Think about that for a second. They're the only American company to do that. They were beating them, and not just beating them easily. They were hands down laying the smackdown on them.
I still think they got destroyed, not only because of the marketing, but I think the number one reason, and people will still to this day, people are cheap. You want to know why they got destroyed? Because they were $100 more than the Sony. And when those parents walked in the store and said, hey, what do we get, little Johnny? They're going to get them the cheaper system that looks the same to their eyeballs. So the problem they had is by throwing in that Kinect sensor, they were $100 more because the second, literally down to the very second they said, you don't have to buy a Kinect anymore. We're the same price as PlayStation. Boom, they beat them every single day.
No, I mean,
they didn't start beating them until the 1S, until they came out with the 1S.
Well,
the
no,
1S,
when they saw positive trends on that.
They
the
said
1S
no more Kinect, same price, boom. That was it.
Well, I mean, it goes back to Microsoft problem where they don't know how to follow through. Kinect was early in the game to voice recognition and some of the things that we have with Google Home and
tracking. It had IR tracking cameras and crap.
And they never followed through to the point where we should have had Kinect already doing a lot of the home stuff for us through our Xbox.
Yeah,
but they don't follow through anything. They cut off stuff, and like I'm sure Warren's going to bring this up where the Xbox does a really good job at bringing the entertainment hub over the PS4, but they also kind of whiffled on that because gamers were like, "Oh, we just want a gaming machine only," rather than. And now we know
gamers are stupid. So
this is going to Juan's point, where Juan has always talked about the fact that hey, sometimes you also want something that's for the whole family. Am I going to just buy a gaming box, or am I going to buy something that now if this does everything and it's well priced, then I will rather buy that than over just
competing for your entertainment dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe a tablet wins in your household instead of a game console.
I mean, it's a shame. Like the thing was, it should have been a $450 price point when that thing launched. It shouldn't have been $500 because the magic number is 5. You can't, when you hit 5, people go, their minds change a different way than when you say
3.
You say 4.
300 was the magic number. You could never go over that. And they're
the Sega
Master System CDs. All the stuff that came out over that.
Which you would thought they would have learned because the PS3 had a horrible launching at $500 damn dollars. It had a horrid launch. Microsoft undercut them by $100 and just shot straight to the moon.
This console generation was the exact flip, where Sony went out there in press conferences saying the PS3 is going to be so good you will want to have to save up.
Oh, his second job, right?
You want to have to save up.
Or you have to work a second. Was it second job? I thought he just said you'll want to save up.
I think he said both. I think he said both. I think he said that you want to save up and have a second job or something like that.
Very arrogant coming out of the PS2 because they blew the equivalent of a 4-0 lead. They did. The PS3. Well, the biggest issue with PS3 is that they went so up. The sub process was something so outside of development of everything else that the game developers couldn't dedicate the time and resources to continue to make games for it. Where Xbox, it was so much damn easier to be able to do so.
Yeah, it was with the X.
But like they lost this war, and they lost this war on not only the hardware side of things in terms of getting number of units out there, but they lost on the software side as well too, where Sony just started in the last couple of years or so, started hammering down and doubling down on the software that they're 2 years too late promising on, by the way, too, because a lot of these games are supposed to be out a year or so after the launch of the damn thing.
Well, Sony started,
the hardware doesn't matter if you don't have the software, man.
Well, and look at how Sony started getting it. Guess what they started doing? They started charging you the gold membership.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then they started having money to apply towards other things. Like, oh, no kidding. Yeah, you can have better infrastructure. And when you get a game, it doesn't crash. Stupid.
Yeah. Although, that was so dumb. That was so dumb. But even though
they were leaving servers in the hands of the game manufacturers. What do you think's going to happen after a year or two when nobody's buying the product? The servers will be gone. Microsoft knew that going in, and they knew because they were already pumping it all up for the back end of their cloud storage system. that, hey, charge them a $60 fee. And everybody remembers, same thing, come down to price. Oh, if I get a PlayStation, it's $100 cheaper and I don't ever have to buy a monthly subscription. I'm not going to Xbox. That was the thing. It was the price.
Yeah,
I'm cheap. I want the PlayStation.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't just that. That had that had
90% of it was that. Let's be honest.
No, it's not 90% of that.
Because I've had every system, and there was no draw for the PlayStation.
I disagree with that.
Ever.
I disagree with that being 90% of the reason. I think the majority of the reason was their shitty message. They couldn't explain why the Kinect was there. They couldn't explain why how this was a home theater and how this could be a media entertainment and content hub. They couldn't explain why the damn thing was bigger. They couldn't explain their way out of the whole having to be online requirements thing. They couldn't explain their DRM issues that they were having. They couldn't properly sell why Xbox Live in many ways. Xbox Gold membership is 5 times better than anything with PSN. It's 5 times better. You get way better AAA titles out of that system when it comes to free content, and you get to keep that stuff. I've seen what Sony offers in terms of their stuff for PSN for free games. It's crap compared to what Microsoft offers. They had the worst messaging that they could possibly put out for the system. They took way too long in terms of backward compatibility. When you sit down and you have, and it's the same mistake that Sony made, when you have a large fan base that has an invested amount of money into their console and into their library, you need to have an upgrade path for them. They did not bring, Sony didn't bring one with the PS3, and they didn't really bring one with the PS4 either.
They still don't have one.
They still don't have one because the thing that they're doing with PSN, whatever the PlayStation Now, I reviewed it. It's a crappy idea and it's overpriced.
$12 a month membership for the 300 old PS3 games.
Yeah, it's overpriced for what they want to do, and it's crap. Or hourly, whatever the hell it was. But Microsoft, when they finally hit their backwards compatibility thing, when that finally dropped for them, that's when people started to look at it again, especially 360 owners that were just sitting there waiting, had no real reason to upgrade, had nothing. They had all their games. They were still getting the games. And then when they saw, oh, I can bring my old games up, and they keep adding new games to it. And, oh, grab this Xbox Live subscription. We'll give you not only 2 games off of Xbox every month, we'll give you a third one. We'll give you 2 more off of the 360 as well, too. So you get damn near 4 games a month for free.
Yeah. The cost of ownership was more expensive, though, to get into the Xbox. And I think that was the biggest downturn is parents who are the only ones buying. Kids aren't buying consoles. I don't care what anybody says. They're not buying them.
Well,
you have to convince your parents to do it.
It's parents that are either very late Gen Xers to millennials that grew up in the gaming world.
But I agree, you're right. They should have explained that, hey, you know what? While you're watching a game, you can have your NFL fantasy live football stuff going right next to you. Had they shown anything like that, anything that's been around for the last 3 or 4 years with the Xbox One, it would have been, you're kidding me. I don't just have to play this game and I can't do anything else. Yeah, I can Skype right here. I can play a game right here. I can surf the internet. I can watch you. I can Twitch back then because they didn't have it for the PlayStation. I can Twitch while I'm doing this. I mean, it was a game changer, but you're right. Nobody knew about it. So what's the purpose of having it if nobody knows about it?
One of the best things of able to switch between apps, going, I can watch my TV, go back to my game, and back to my TV without having to switch devices.
That's right. Built-in DVR.
Through one voice command, it gets what I need to get done. And it's they seem to fail on it. So beyond that, they lost this war and they lost it deservingly. So now they're restarting the war again. They're gonna try and say,
"Are you still on Xbox?" Sorry,
they're gonna try and say,
we could have a whole show just on this.
Let's wrap it up, please. Come on.
They're gonna try and say,
my wife's probably like, "Hey man, we gotta go."
They're gonna try and say that the Project Scorpio, Xbox, whatever the hell they'll name it, fits into the ecosystem and it's in within this console generation. No. It isn't. You launched a new console. It's a new console along with the Switch. We're in the next generation, next year in 2017.
And the last thing with that too is the fact that it is, you are able to bounce around apps. They do need a better processor so that when you click home, there isn't that lag and that stutter up. You know what I mean? So I think just by getting that will help, because the 1S, which I have sitting right next to me, you still have the lag and the stutter and you're waiting. So if it's fluid like your phone, switching between apps, that's a game changer.
Absolutely.
All right. And I guess
Good
I'll just
discussion, Warren.
quickly mention my own CES stuff. Everything everybody else has said, I'm so excited to see, and that's pretty much it. No, well, I would say this. Expect to see a lot of cool stuff from us from CES, Juan and Pocket now, as well as Mr. Warren Bowman and us at Booredatwork. We will have some. I will have some exclusive content for you guys. There's some stuff I can't talk about. One thing I will definitely want everyone to kind of join in. I'm doing the plug here at this point. Is I'm doing a live tweet session with Bitdefender on Saturday. So we're talking about like security, some of the new products, what you can do, because that was one of the big things in 2016. A lot of hacks. Then there's the Russians, and there's malware, and there's a whole lot. So
very cool.
I think it'll be nice to see that. So definitely join us on that aspect. Now I know a lot of people have been asking who won the giveaway. Yes. Right now I'm only going to mention the main prize winner, and then we will definitely tweet out and mention all the people who won. So there were, I believe, 11 prizes in total.
11 prizes in
total.
11, yep.
And the winner, who's actually also in the chat at this moment, is drum roll, Ronald Collins.
Oh, Mr. Ronald Collins.
Congratulations, Ronald.
All right.
You won the Synology surveillance kit with, of course, your Synology 214 NAS, as well as also Seagate hard drives and 2 cameras. So now you can protect yourself at home and have all that saved to your own NAS. Now, there are a few other winners, and I see some of you here in the chat. I am not going to mention your names yet because we haven't actually finished tallying all the winners all together, but I just wanted to mention Ronald's like, oh, good, yes.
Yeah, that's a great prize. That is a great prize.
So yeah, definitely stay tuned. Just follow us on Twitter. We'll tweet out all the winners, and we also, I think it might be 2 tweets. I don't think we can actually put all those names in. Yeah.
You might instead of trying to do like texting, you should do like a video and try and tag people.
Yeah, I'll do a short video on Twitter.
Yeah. Just do a little selfie video and like pop it up on Twitter, and then you can tag people in the video.
Yeah, but still though, even tagging the people, I don't think I can tag all the 11 names.
You don't know until you try.
You know what? Yeah,
that's not a winner's attitude right there.
Wow, thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah,
we go with this no can do.
Yeah, we will mention all the winners. It will be out on Twitter, and also the
Facebook Live it.
Periscope,
the Gleam IO video will also the contest page will be populated with the winners there as well. Richie A says go on Facebook. Yeah, no, I think I'll just post it on Twitter. It's fine.
Facebook Live, Instagram Live.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining all of us on our final episode for the year in 2016. 2017 is going to be a fantastic year. That is what I am praying and hoping for anyway. So hopefully you all make it into the new year, and stay safe if you're doing anything tonight. If you're staying at home, stay safe at home too, because sometimes crazy things happen.
Everybody is going to see us staying home. We're literally 48 hours away from all of us having to be on a plane.
Yeah, we all.
I'm gonna miss you guys, man. Somebody better tweet me or face Instagram, Snapchat me.
we will share a lot of content from CES, and at this point I want to say definitely check out all the channels. You can check out Mr. Chad Christian, who has joined us for a second time this year. His channel is Chad Christian, spelled that way, or follow him on Twitter. It is Coach CWC. He doesn't have a lower third because, of course, Google doesn't want him to have a lower third. So
Google hates me because I talk about Microsoft so much.
Don't have Microsoft talk, man. And then and brandishing laptops and not Chromebooks. What is wrong?
Yeah, sacrilegious.
Don't do stuff like that. So, but yeah, definitely check out his channel. It's got some really cool stuff and good content there. And Mr. Juan Bagnell from Some Gadget Guy, as well as also he is the chief editor, I think.
Senior editor.
Senior editor. Sorry, so I'm just pushing your.
No, you gave me a promotion, so I'm fine with that.
Senior editor at Pocket Now. So if you want to follow him on Twitter, it is Some Gadget Guy. If you want to check out his videos, you can find some of his videos, of course, at Pocket Now, as well as also at Some Gadget Guy on YouTube. And of course, Mr. Warren Bowman, who's been on a tier, just basically streaming content on Final Fantasy. What's the number again? 15?
15.
Yeah, 15. Yes. Yeah, you can follow him on YouTube. That is his channel, bw1.com, as well as also that is his Twitter handle. He will be also streaming live content from CES, most likely Final Fantasy 15 from CES also.
From the show floor.
Yeah, if you could pry him
In
away.
VR.
Yes.
360 video.
I have other content.
He does have other content. And of course, you can check us out here at Bored at Work. It is Bored at Work on YouTube as well as Twitter. And we also will be, we're not streaming anything live like Final Fantasy, but we'll try to at some point if we can.
And I don't suck at the game compared to everyone else. I found that out recently.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, Chad, you hit 10K, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did.
Congratulations,
400,000 views today.
Right
There you
on.
go.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you guys
man.
for having me on the show again, by the way. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, no
You guys
problem.
are awesome. I've looked up for all you guys for a long time, so it's really cool working with you guys.
Well, thanks for joining and adding some a different spin and satire to our weekly commentary. It's like you're taking over Sam's spot somehow, man. I mean,
Where the hell is Sam? How come you and Sam are never in the hangout at the same time?
I don't know.
They're the same person.
Oh man, but yeah. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. Happy New Year. And like I said, stay safe. We'll see you again. Just check out content starting on the 2nd from all the channels here. And of course, Chad will also be posting every day since he's now become like a PC guy. Oh, he's always been a PC guy. Sorry, whatever.
I'm just doing videos now.
Anyway, thank you very much, guys, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Bam.